What's going on, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com. This time taking a first look at Cabal 2, the long-time, highly anticipated sequel to the popular online fantasy-style MMORPG Cabal Online from the Korean developer EST-Soft. Now this time around, EST-Soft has decided to start off by self-publishing the game in North America, and it's been in the making in Korea since late 2010. And just like a lot of Korean MMOs, it takes a bit to localize here, so it's finally here in the West and launched as of recently. So with that, I'll hop in and show you guys around the game. But first, just like I mentioned right off the bat with Echo of Soul, Cabal 2 is going to fall under the category of the very traditional MMORPG. A lot of you guys might already know and expect this because you've already been playing or have tried the game because it's been in a relatively public beta for a while now. So yeah, in case you were thinking otherwise, this game holds true to the same MMORPG formula that we've seen in the past. But that's not to say it doesn't have a couple of features that make it stand out, which I'll be happy to show you guys. So with that said, we've got 6 options when it comes to classes, none of which are gender locked, and I've got to say the class selection screen in this game is one of the more impressive looking. The character models and animations are definitely appealing, and overall you get that feeling that your character, no matter what you choose, is going to end up looking like a badass. You've got the standard warrior class here with a two-handed sword filling the role between DPS and defense. You'll notice that you've got a short snippet of the class role and overall bio. Here's the female version. Again, still badass looking. Plus you can see how they're set up stat-wise here as well. Pretty much what you want or expect in the class selection screen. Next up, you've got the wizard as the main DPS class, glass cannon style. Very low defense, of course, at the benefit of all the damage. You can see the difficulty level of the wizard has increased a bit over the warrior due to the lack of defense, the warrior being at 2 stars. Unfortunately, the male version doesn't quite look like Gandalf. I was kind of disappointed here, but you might be able to nail that look in the customization in this game. It's kind of intense. Next up is the Force Blader, who is really across the board when it comes to attack and defense type. Evenly balanced, minus the healing power, of course, but that's obviously why you have the priests and consumables anyway. The Force Blader ain't got time to bleed. You've got a nice lightsaber type blade that you can bring in the deeps just like the wizard. Just a little bit more mid-range attacks than long in this case, and a lot more potential to stay alive. Not to mention the female version here is probably the best way to go if you're wanting to take advantage of the boob slider in customization. Spoiler alert, it has one. The Force Shielder, as the name implies, packs the most defense, wielding a huge shield and long sword, and uses both equally well as weapons, giving them a tiny bit of attack range as well as stun capabilities. Of course, this is also the go-to support class for any ally buffs in group situations, but that's pretty standard, nothing really new there. You've got the Force Archer here. Now, the Force part of their name is indicating that their weapons are infused with the Force, which is like a magic ability in this game. And it's kind of an explanation of why certain abilities like the Archer, Shielder, and Blader have magical abilities to go along with their more stereotypical abilities. Like in the original Cabal, they had the Blader and the Force Blader. The Force Blader was essentially a Blader that learned to infuse the Force into a real weapon. Anyway, back to it. The Force Archer is your typical archer and variation to your mage, of course. Still low on defense, but good range and attack speed, not sacrificing any power at that. Not too good with multiple targets, especially early level, so you can kind of get overwhelmed if you aggro too many monsters at once. So with that, you really have to learn their evasive moves and stuns in order to solo level, hence the reason why the difficulty is capped out in this game. But finally, you've got your Priest, your healing class, which is definitely new to Cabal, this class anyway. The original Cabal, that role was handled mainly by the Wizard, so they basically dropped the Blader entirely and healing powers of the Wizard in this game over the first. And again, no matter what class you end up choosing, male or female, you're going to look like a badass. I've got to admit again, the gear looks sweet. Okay, so we'll get into the customization a little bit. I'll skip it for now. Let's talk about the combat. So, as you might have already noticed already, it is tab targeting. The default control scheme is WAS and D to move, or left click to location, which you can actually turn off like I did in the options. I'm not the biggest fan of that control scheme, so it's nice that you're able to turn that off. Now, you can jump, and that's nice along with the absence of invisible walls and lack of falling damage. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I spoke too soon. Darn. Wait. Yeah! Trolled. So there isn't exactly any run or dodge features by pressing shift or double tapping any of the WAS or D keys, But each one of the classes does come with a few evade type abilities which are useful, like I mentioned with the Force Archer, but they have longer cooldowns than you might expect, somewhere around the 30-second mark, and are meant to be used a lot less often than you might want to use an actual dodge feature in a more action combat type game. But back to the combat itself, the skills are set up clearly, so even visually you can tell how to use them effectively. For example, here my Force Archer, I can approach a tougher enemy easily if I aggro from a distance with Poison Arrow to get the damage over time started. Then I can keep them back by stunning them with Frostbolt, then sort of wail on them from there with my consecutive skills, which is going to allow me to open up and deal the most damage, if they even survive the first part of that. So yeah, one thing the combat system has going for it is the consecutive skill system, which is basically a combo type system for certain skills, kind of like Terra, except you unlock certain skills, specific skills, that become part of your consecutive skill chain, and if you follow along with the combo precisely as they pop up on the screen, like you see here, you start dealing more and more damage. The consecutive skills only rely on correct timing when they pop up, so you're not having to focus on more than one key like a combo system in a dungeon crawler or something like that. My Force Archer's consecutive chain starts with 4 and then goes into 2 additional skills for now, which change icons and pop up on the screen when they're ready. And you'll notice by the third skill, if I haven't killed everything already by then, I'm doing a lot more damage than the first initial attack. Keep in mind, these are skills that you can only execute by following through with a combo, so there is an incentive to use them. So each class gets additional consecutive skills at different levels. I want to say my Archer got the second skill in the chain at like level 5 or so, then the third at level 11 or 12, and as you can see, the next one in this concession I'll get at level 32. But before that, at level 17, I'll get a skill to start my second consecutive skill chain. So eventually, late game, you'll have an entire hotbar with each skill starting off into a combo-like chain. So that aspect of the system is pretty cool in my opinion. You just have to progress a bit to get there. The level timing is completely different with my Force Shielder here. I've gained this charge ability that starts this chain of skills before my third ability in this chain. Abilities can also be upgraded by finding an instructor in town. Later on, you'll get the second and third and fourth version of your skills, which could include your consecutive skills. So you can purchase other abilities this way, some of which are starters for consecutive skills. You can easily purchase skills with gold that you earn in the game by questing and selling. There are so many drops for gear and junk that you get a lot of gold for, especially since the gear, like 75% of the gear you find isn't for your class anyway, so it's just money in the bank. I can say that the character attribute system is set up very straightforward in this game. When you level up, you can plug points into various attributes directly, which will then change your stats accordingly. It's very straightforward. They even have PvP stats that you can focus on if that's what you're planning on doing later on. Of course, your gear helps you fine-tune these attributes, adding specific values to your overall stats, which is also very direct and straightforward in this game. There are a couple of other cool combat features that I didn't quite get leveled up to in order to show you guys, like Battlemode, for example. This is kind of like activating your abilities once you reach God form in Skyforge, as an example. I don't know how many of you guys have reached that point in Skyforge just yet. But with Battlemode, you summon a astral weapon that you have to first acquire that gives you a huge buff for a short period of time, and when you're in this mode, you have a unique set of skills that you can use. But you can only use this mode to defeat powerful mini-boss type enemies on your own, so when you're soloing them. This is something that you get when you're around level 35, and it seems like it's kind of tricky to get. Another one that kind of goes alongside the combo system in the game is Finishing Blow, which happens when some of the boss monsters fall into a daze type state after you beat the crap out of them and you're about to kill them. At that point, the Finish Blow icon appears, and then you have to hit the corresponding key like a single button fatality in order to pull it off. And if you don't do this in time, then you have to take down the monster normally. Alright, so finally, let's check out the character customization, which is one of the stronger parts of the game, in my opinion. Once you've picked out your class, you get the option to choose some epic presets, like the following for the female Force Blader. You've got the Lively Girl, the Mature Beauty, and the Brave Whoa. The hell is that? Not what I think of when I think Brave Warrior. Gotta hand it to her, though. She is brave for wearing that outfit. Anyway, you've got a nice variety when it comes to preset options here, as you can tell. It just kind of goes to show what options you can come up with, if anything. From there, you can choose from several different face types, some of which look very nice as is. These are still presets, by the way, starting points essentially, so you can modify them a little bit further under the Face, Shape, and Decorate tabs. You've got some hair options you can go with, either the Emma Stone from Zombieland, or you can even go Kill Bill style if you want. Plenty of options there. No sliders for hair length though, in case you guys were wondering. Hair color and eye type, of course, which is neat. It's preset. You don't change the color, but you've got a couple of options here. You can then go and adjust the individual features of the face with plenty of sliders until you sort of get what you want, like this. And the same thing goes with the body shape. And once again, there is a boob slider for both female and males, though no physics to go along with it. Sad day. You've got some cool options for makeup and tattoos, all under the Decorate tab, and you can decide if you want it on the right side, left side, or across the entire face, which I thought was a good way to go about that. And there you go. There are your options. You've got quite a few. It's not, you know, on the level of Black Desert or Fallout 4 for that matter, but there's plenty to make yourself look unique, that's for sure. When you first hop into the game, you're greeted by a crap ton of enemies and pretty much freak you out until you realize it's a strange combat tutorial, which is odd because the combat is tab targeting, so there really isn't anything you have to learn. You haven't seen this before, so I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. I can say getting up to level 13 was really fast, and you earn a lot of skills in that time frame. But the questing can get very repetitive and grindy. It is your typical kill this many of this or that. But the part I don't like about that the most is that the mobs have a chance to drop the quest item. So you might have to kill, say, a lizard, this guy here, to get some nasty lizard meat. This is really a quest, by the way. And the quest says gather 5 nasty lizard meat, but you end up having to kill like 17 lizards in order to get their nasty meat. One of the reasons I also wasn't able to really play further and get you guys later on footage was due to the fact that I was having a hard time with the game running on a smooth frame rate, despite having 16 gigs of RAM, an i7 4790K, and a GTX 980 running it. Definitely don't think that was the problem. And on top of that, I had to try 3 different methods of recording footage because every other program that I ran in the background would crash the game thinking that I was hacking it. Now, I know that this is something that can be addressed in time, so I'm not too worried about that, but with that said, if you're trying to play the game yourself, you might run into a couple snags despite your hardware. You're not the only one. Another feature that I'm not particularly a fan of, and I don't know exactly who this appeals to, so I'm not really sure why it's even in the game, but it's the resurrection sickness. If you die in combat, your movement speed is slowed to a crawl for 5 minutes. I'm not sure exactly how this works by leveling up. I also understand, you know, penalties for dying, but I'm not quite sure why this has to be based on your movement speed. I mean, if you die and it's based on your movement speed, then how do you get past things that, I guess you don't aggro? I don't know. I was just trying not to aggro anything afterwards. You know, I also get that it's catering to the more veteran MMO players in that respect for, you know, the hardcore players, but I'm just a little surprised that this resurrection sickness is not conditional to PvP or dungeons. I died while being AFK next to an NPC, and yet I was penalized to walk at a snail's pace. Not sure why. Anyway, okay, I'm done with my little rant. I'll get back into a few more features that can be appealing to a lot of MMORPG players, like dungeons, for example. The dungeons in this game can be accessed early level for the most part. You don't have to be high level from what I can tell, but it looks like you do have to access one dungeon and then you can access more later on. The first dungeon you access is at level 9 or 10, but the dungeons get progressively harder, so you gain access to later ones and you'll need more members in a party in order to get through them effectively. But the cool part about this is this gives you the ability to try and solo the dungeons and make it a challenge for you. So there doesn't seem to be any party restrictions here, so if you want a challenge, you can probably find one this way. Another form of dungeon-like content in this game is abysmal cores, which are objects like this, scattered all around the world that you can activate by attacking them. Now, there are several different types. You've got, I believe, 4 different types. Blue cores, blue hypercores, red cores, and red hypercores. And these don't show up for you until you get to level 10 or so and reach Frey Hilltown, but once you pick up the repeatable quest like this, you'll get access to different abysmal cores as you progress. They get a little bit harder as you gain access to new areas. The red abysmal cores release monsters from them in waves, and the faster you kill them, the more mobs come out. So that gives you more opportunity for rewards, and it ends up giving you abysmal points if you have the right repeatable quest selected. The Abysmo points let you purchase gems from the quest giver that give you upgrades to your gear and skills. These are also things that you find just by questing. The blue Abysmo cores, on the other hand, creates a portal once destroyed, which kind of takes you to a different location for you to kill a red Abysmo core, pretty much. But I think the reason why it works this way is because it's supposed to keep you isolated with it, whether it just be you or your party, versus the red cores being free game if you activate one in open areas. The blue cores are supposed to be a little bit more difficult than the reds, I believe, for this reason. So that's that system in the game. As far as PvP goes, you've got a 6v6 PvP battleground that also throws in a little PvE called Maelstrom Castle. And you've got a little bit more unique 18 versus 18 battlefield called Forgotten Desert Temple that pulls in a few MOBA elements with lanes and turrets and NPCs that you can actually buy upgraded gear from. So you've got several options when it comes to PvP in the game. As far as the cash shop goes, all cosmetic items and convenience items from what I can see so far. They really don't have a whole lot of options. They've got the summer beach outfits going on right here for costumes. You've got some consumables, 2 different types of mounts here, which looks kind of cool. And, of course, a couple of pets. Random seahorse. Got it. I have a feeling that this will grow to have a lot more to choose from later on. All in all, the game is fair in my opinion. Not too much in terms of innovation here, but it still seems to offer a lot of features that people are looking for in an MMORPG. I know I say this a lot, but there seems to be a good amount of people in the game, so apparently they're doing something right. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but still fun to mess around in, especially the combo or the consecutive skill system. Hopefully this helped you guys get a decent overview of the earlier parts of the game in general, and of course, if you're looking for more information about Cabal 2, you can find that at MMOHuts.com. Head to the game profile, and like always, thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, that's going to be it from me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.
You're the only person who can do it.